The loss of a mentor is not just the loss of a teacher, it is the silence of a voice that once guided every step, every decision, every moment of doubt. When a mentor shapes your childhood, your discipline, your character, their absence becomes a test far greater than any opponent in the cage. But the fighter who walks forward carrying that pain also carries a purpose. Every early morning run, every round on the mat, every sacrifice is a reminder that the path he walks was built long before the world knew his name, built by the man who taught him what strength truly means. The world sees a fighter hungry for victory, but deep inside, he is still the student listening to the echo of his mentor's lessons. There comes a moment in every fighter's life when he realizes that greatness is not measured by belts or applause, but by how well he honors the people who shaped him. When the mentor is gone, the fighter understands that discipline is no longer something taught, it is something lived. He doesn't need loud words, he doesn't need to announce his intentions. His silence becomes more powerful than any speech, because silence is where he remembers the lessons that shaped him. Silence is where he remembers who he must become. The discipline he carries today is the discipline of a man who was raised on structure, respect, and purpose. Losing a mentor can break a person, but for some, it becomes the fuel that sharpens everything. Pain becomes a source of clarity. Every setback becomes motivation. Every moment of exhaustion becomes a reminder of why quitting was never an option in the first place. The fighter no longer trains to win, he trains to honor. He no longer pushes for himself. He pushes because the man who guided him deserves to see his teachings carried all the way to the top. The legacy of a mentor doesn't fade, it becomes a fire inside the student. There is a strength that comes from being raised by someone who demanded more than talent. Someone who demanded character. Someone who saw the world not as a place to seek recognition, but a place to earn respect. That kind of guidance stays forever. Even when the mentor is gone, his presence lives in the fighter's discipline, his patience, his humility. Every fight becomes a lesson revisited. Every victory becomes a tribute. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to show that the path taught to him was the right one. Sometimes, the fighter looks around the empty gym late at night and remembers the days when his mentor's voice corrected every mistake, pushed every boundary, and expected nothing but excellence. Now, he pushes himself. Now, he hears that voice in his mind. Calm, precise, demanding discipline. That memory becomes a companion stronger than any team, stronger than any crowd. It becomes the reason he never feels alone, even when the world watches from afar. A true mentor doesn't leave behind instructions, he leaves behind a mission. And the fighter's mission is simple: continue the work. Continue the discipline. Continue the legacy. Not by copying the mentor, but by evolving into the man he was trained to become. The fighter understands that legacy is not preserved through words, documentaries, or memories, it is preserved through action. Through how you carry yourself when nobody is watching. Through how you treat success. Through how you stand after loss. Many people search the world for motivation, but he only needs to look within. The lessons he carries are stitched into his heart, molded into his spirit. He doesn't fight for fame, he fights with responsibility. The responsibility to protect a legacy built on honor and humility. The responsibility to prove that the years of training, the sacrifices, the guidance, were not wasted. This is bigger than him. This is continuation. Every time he steps into battle, he steps in with two people: the fighter he is today, and the mentor who built him. The crowd sees only one, but the fighter feels both. That is the invisible strength his opponents do not understand. They see skill. They do not see purpose. They see confidence. They do not see the foundation laid by a man who believed in him long before the world did. The world often thinks losing a mentor weakens you. But for him, it forged him. It carved away ego and left only dedication. It taught him that the greatest victories are not the ones the world celebrates, but the ones your mentor would have been proud of. And so, he continues to walk forward. Not louder, not flashier, but sharper, calmer, more focused. Because the greatest tribute he can give is becoming the man he was trained to be. This is how legacy continues. Not with tears, not with memories alone, but with discipline, honor, and relentless work. The mentor may be gone, but his teachings live in every breath the fighter takes. And as long as he breathes, the legacy will never fade. A father figure's discipline is not just about strict rules or tough training, it is the foundation that shapes a young fighter long before he becomes a champion. It begins in small moments, being taught how to stand, how to breathe, how to carry responsibility even as a child. Discipline becomes a language spoken without words, a bond formed through trust, sacrifice, and unwavering expectations. A father figure does not simply teach technique, he teaches how to live. He molds character before he molds skill. He shows that strength is not measured by muscles, but by patience, respect, and the ability to control your emotions even in the harshest moments. And through that discipline, the fighter understands that greatness is not an accident, it is a lifelong commitment. What makes this kind of discipline so powerful is that it continues to guide the fighter even after the mentor is gone. The lessons echo in every difficult morning when the world is asleep and he is pushing himself beyond limits. He remembers the times his father figure demanded one more round, one more repetition, not because winning was important, but because consistency builds warriors. The discipline implanted in him becomes instinct. It becomes the voice that says, "Keep going," when his body wants to stop. It becomes the reminder that excuses never build champions, but perseverance does. This discipline becomes a compass, always pointing him toward the right path, even when life tries to pull him off course. A father figure teaches more than how to fight, he teaches how to behave when no one is watching. He teaches humility, not to speak loudly about goals, but to work quietly toward them. He teaches respect, for opponents, for teammates, for the journey itself. He teaches responsibility, understanding that every action reflects the values passed down to him. And most importantly, he teaches that discipline does not come from fear, but from love. Love for the craft, love for growth, and love for the man who believed in his potential before he ever proved himself to the world. In time, the fighter realizes that the discipline he carries is the greatest gift he ever received. It becomes his armor in pressure-filled moments and his anchor during uncertainty. Others may see a stoic, focused athlete, but deep inside, there is a boy shaped by a father figure who demanded the best and gave his heart to guide him. That discipline lives on in every decision, every sacrifice, every victory. It is proof that even though the father figure is no longer physically present, his influence remains unshakable. This kind of discipline doesn't fade, it becomes legacy. A legacy written not in books or documentaries, but in the fighter's everyday choices. The way he speaks, the way he trains, the way he carries himself with calm strength. A father figure's discipline becomes the silent force behind every achievement. And through the fighter's actions, that discipline continues to breathe, continues to inspire, continues to guide, proving that a true mentor's presence never truly disappears. Carrying the wisdom forward means taking the lessons of a great mentor and letting them live through every choice, every habit, every moment of discipline. It is not about repeating words or copying actions, it is about understanding the values behind those lessons and making them a permanent part of who you are. Wisdom becomes something deeper than memory. It becomes a guide that shapes your thinking, your reactions, and the way you handle pressure. Even without the mentor physically beside you, their influence continues to speak through your decisions. Every time you choose patience over emotion, focus over distraction, humility over ego, you are honoring that wisdom and allowing it to grow within you. A mentor's wisdom teaches you that the journey is never just about winning. It's about staying true to principles even when the world tries to pull you in a different direction. The fighter begins to understand that strength is not just measured in explosive moments inside the cage, but in the quiet moments, waking up early, training when tired, refusing shortcuts, staying respectful even when others aren't. These actions reflect lessons learned long ago, lessons that still guide his steps like a silent compass. When he faces tough battles, he doesn't panic. He remembers the calm guidance that once shaped him. When success comes, he doesn't lose himself in pride. He remembers the words that taught him discipline and humility. Wisdom also becomes a responsibility. It reminds him that he is not walking this path alone. He carries the weight of a legacy built by a man who devoted his life to teaching, shaping, and preparing him. He realizes that every time he shows respect, every time he trains with intensity, every time he maintains composure under pressure, he is keeping that legacy alive. The world sees a fighter who stays grounded and focused, but they don't see the source of that strength, the teachings that live quietly within him, guiding him like a shadow that never leaves. Over time, the wisdom becomes part of his identity. It influences how he treats teammates, how he speaks to younger fighters, how he leads without arrogance. He becomes living proof that true mentorship never dies. What was once learned from another now flows naturally from him. The lessons that shaped him begin to shape others, and through that cycle, the mentor's influence continues far beyond his lifetime. Carrying the wisdom forward is not a duty, it is an honor. It is the fighter's way of saying, your teachings didn't end with you, they live through me. It is the quiet promise to protect the values that built him, to walk the path with the same dedication, and to inspire others the way he was once inspired. This is how wisdom becomes eternal. This is how a legacy continues, not through fame or stories, but through the actions of the one who carries it with pride, discipline, and unwavering loyalty. Turning pain into purpose is one of the hardest transformations a person can make, yet it is the one that defines true strength. When someone loses the person who shaped them, guided them, and believed in them before anyone else did, the world suddenly feels heavier. The silence left behind becomes a weight that sits on the heart. But instead of letting that weight crush him, the fighter chooses to carry it with pride. He understands that pain is not something to run from, it is something to rise through. And in rising, he gives meaning to the loss. He turns every tear, every lonely training session, every moment of doubt into a source of fire that pushes him further than he ever imagined. Pain changes people. It can break a person's spirit or sharpen it like steel. For him, the pain became a reminder of who he is and where he came from. Instead of letting it drain him, he uses it to become more focused, more disciplined, more determined. Every time he steps on the mat or steps into the fight, he carries that pain with him, not as a burden, but as drive. It reminds him that he is not just fighting for himself. He is fighting for the man who taught him how to stand tall, how to stay humble, how to win with respect and lose with dignity. The pain becomes purpose because it connects him to the legacy he refuses to let fade. There are moments when the memories hit him unexpectedly, when he feels the absence like a punch to the chest. And yet, those moments become fuel. Instead of breaking down, he stands up straighter. Instead of slowing down, he pushes harder. He knows that the one he lost would never want him to collapse under grief. He would want him to rise, to keep going, to carry forward the work they started together. In honoring that unspoken promise, the fighter transforms loss into motivation, grief into strength, sadness into direction. This transformation is not loud. It is not dramatic. It happens in quiet moments. When he ties his gloves with focus, when he trains long after others have gone home, when he repeats the lessons he once learned to a younger fighter. Pain teaches him resilience. It teaches him that true warriors are built not in comfort, but in the hardest moments of their lives. His purpose becomes clearer than ever. Each achievement is no longer just a personal goal, it is a tribute. Each victory becomes a message. Your teachings are alive. Your legacy continues. Turning pain into purpose allows him to walk forward with a different kind of confidence, the confidence of someone who has suffered and still stands unbroken. It gives him a direction that cannot be shaken by doubt or fear because it is rooted in something deeper than ambition. It is rooted in love, in gratitude, in the desire to honor someone who built the foundations of his life. And so, He continues his journey not just as a fighter, but as a carrier of legacy. The pain that once threatened to break him now drives him toward greatness. It becomes the force behind his discipline, the strength behind his silence, and the meaning behind every step he takes. Through purpose, he keeps the memory alive, not in words, but in the unwavering pursuit of excellence. A legacy that lives through actions is far more powerful than anything spoken or written. It is carried in the way a person moves, the way he trains, the way he treats others, and the way he responds to pressure. When a mentor leaves this world, the true measure of his impact is seen in the behavior of the student who continues walking the path they built together. Words fade, memories soften, but actions remain. Every disciplined routine, every respectful gesture, every moment of calm under fire becomes a reflection of the teachings once given. Through these actions, the mentor's presence stays alive, not as a story told to the world, but as a living force guiding every step. The fighter understands that honoring a legacy is not about repeating the past. It is about living its principles so deeply that they become inseparable from his own identity. He doesn't have to mention the mentor's name for people to feel his influence. They see it in his self-control, his humility, his relentless effort. They see it in the way he carries himself with quiet strength, in the way he shows up to train with focus, in the way he never disrespects the journey. These are not habits learned overnight. They are habits built through years of guidance, years of discipline, years of being shaped by someone who believed in more than talent. A legacy built on strong values demands consistency. And so, the fighter becomes a guardian of those values. He leads by example, inspiring younger athletes not through loud speeches but through the way he trains beside them. He demonstrates that true greatness is not loud or flashy, it is steady, humble, and disciplined. Others may chase fame, but he chases improvement. Others may fight for attention, but he fights for honor. These differences come from the mentor's influence, woven deeply into the fighter's character like threads that will never snap. As time passes, the fighter realizes that his own journey is now part of the continuation. The lessons he once received, he now passes on naturally, correcting a stance here, offering advice there, reminding others of the importance of respect and hard work. The cycle continues in a quiet but powerful way. The mentor's voice echoes not just in his mind, but through every action he takes and every person he influences. The world may never know the origin of these values, but those who understand will see the legacy living on. This is how a mentor remains eternal. Not through monuments, not through documentaries, but through the daily choices of the one who carries his teachings. It is a living legacy, one shaped by discipline, strengthened by sacrifice, and proven by dedication. The fighter knows that every time he steps into a challenge with calm focus, every time he wins with grace, every time he carries himself with honor, he is continuing a legacy that deserves to live forever. And in doing so, he ensures that the mentor's impact will outlast both of their lifetimes, carried forward through action, devotion, and the unbreakable bond they shared.